Welcome back for the final segment of our program. I see people trickling in. This is the day of action part. This is where the action comes in. If you're feeling a little slumpy after lunch, hope you got a little, the sun has come out, little refreshment. Let's go. I am delighted to introduce to all of you my colleague and a key member of the California Department of Aging executive team, Sarah Steenhausen, our Deputy Director of Aging Policy, Research, and Equity, who will take over from here for the final part of our day. Sarah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Susan. What a dream it is to see all of you here. And a big shout out to all of you who have hung around to the last session. Yay, thank you. Because what the people don't know who are out there and talking is that this is going to be the most fun. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to say something because I'm super excited to see so many of you that I haven't seen in so long. Can you stand if you're from, let's just see, because everybody's been sitting a lot. Who here is from the California Senior Legislature? All right, wonderful. Do we still have people from our area agencies on aging partners? Yay. Independent living centers. Yay. Caregiver resource centers. Yay. And how about all of our stakeholder advisory committees that spoke earlier today? Yay. Okay. Wonderful. So it's been such an amazing day because I think we've really tried to balance focusing in on the person, focusing on the policy, with several really important themes emerging about how we plan for the aging of our population. We've heard about themes of interdependency, of humankind, of people who need services and supports, but really don't live in silos of different programs. We've also talked about a lot of very important workforce issues and the tremendous progress that the state has made in the last 2 years of advancing the master plan for aging, addressing and still lots more work to do to address workforce issues, housing, access to services in the home and the community, behavioral health, data-driven policymaking, and of course, equity underlying all of it. So what we want to do now is we want to turn to all of you. You've been talked at for all day today, right? One thing that we are very cognizant of is that we haven't had the opportunity to have time to have Q&A. Now, this is not a Q&A session. This is really an A session, focusing on what you all see as the answers. What would you like to lift up that you've heard today, whether it's a policy issue or a theme? What do you think's perhaps needing to be uplifted that you haven't heard a lot of? So we encourage you to take 2 minutes right now to grab a paper. You'll see the papers on the center of your table. Fill them out. Think about it. We're going to collect those afterwards. And then after 2 minutes, it's probably going to be more like a minute and a half because really we don't have that much time left and we want to spend this time hearing from you. Then we want to call on all of you. We have 3 wonderful colleagues who have handheld mics in the audience, and they will be passing out, raise your hand, they'll come over to you, we'll hear from you. This will all help, again, inform our understanding of the issues, what we need to consider as we work on the next iteration of the master plan for aging. Before we get started with our exercise, I just have to say personally how excited I am that right now my mom and my sister are watching this live stream, and it's been super fun. So let's just say hi, Dodie, hi, Luli, yay, great to see you. It's been so much fun because my sister, who is not engaged in these issues at all, is like, oh, now I get what you're working on, and now I understand why it's so important. And oh my gosh, Mom should be listening to this right now. It's exactly what we're dealing with. So, somebody else reflected to me that oftentimes you work in the field of aging or disability and you don't even know it. And so I think that it's our job to continue making these connections. So right now we want to hear from you. We want you to reflect, and then in about a minute, we're going to open up the mic and start hearing from you. So thank you. Okay, I think we've had enough time to write. I worry that it's just more time for people to go out and get snacks and leave the room. So we need a few brave souls to raise their hands. And I do not have my glasses on, so I might have a hard time seeing who is raising their hands. Oh, we have somebody in the center here raising their hands. We have some on the side. I'm going to call out to my colleagues, Renita, Callie, and Gina, who have mics. Oh, there we go. Perfect. There's Susan with the mic. And please, before you speak, introduce yourself and say where you're from.
Sarah, you should know.
Oh, I know you, Marty.
I know, you should know it's a mistake to give me the mic. But no. Marty Lynch, longtime federally qualified health center director and member of the Master Plan on Aging Stakeholder Group. So I wanted to tell you and everybody how impressed I was by this sheet that was on our table that Justice and Aging put together. And if I wanted to hear more of anything today, it was how are we going to create this universal coverage for LTSS by both expanding Medi-Cal eligibility and creating an additional benefit for all Californians. And I know the department is part of the administration, so in some ways you have to take your direction. But how can the department, as well as advocates, help us get there? You know, how can we move that agenda item when it feels so daunting? We all know that it's well needed, but we find it daunting to get there. And I'll throw just one more piece on top. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is just that these different LTSS services be available in all of our communities so that PACE, for example, would be available wherever I live in the state of California, not just in LA or Oakland or San Francisco, whatever it might be. So, Sarah?
Thank you, Marty. Two very important points you raised about this issue we've talked about throughout the day, which is the affordability issue and how as a state we can address this broader issue of how people pay for long-term services and supports. It's something that, you know, we see a lot of work going on right now with the long-term care insurance task force and look forward to seeing that report. And then after that, we'll have more opportunities to revisit the issue because the Department of Aging through this year's budget was just given $5 million to build off of that work. So we recognize the enormity of the issue and we look forward to continuing to work with all of you on how together to solve it, but it's really important. And also, Marty, as you said, thinking about access to services and statewide access and ensuring that we have those core services available by 2030 across the state. That's why this home and community-based service gap analysis that the Department of Healthcare Services and the Department of Aging are leading is so critical. So all of these efforts will have in-depth stakeholder engagement, and we look forward to having you be part of it. So I saw some more hands. If our folks with the, great, we have one over here, Renita is going to turn to, and please introduce yourself, and then after that we will go to this side of the room. Yes.
My name is Carolyn Nava. I am with the Disability Action Center, an independent living center. Hi, yeah, we've met. This was an amazing day. The only thing that stood out very starkly was that there was no consideration given to the differences that our rural communities are facing. We live in a region where there is one person for every 14 square miles. You're required to have a wait time of at least 6 weeks to 9 months to receive specialty care when you cannot make your way down to a more populated metropolitan service area like Sacramento to get to UC Davis or to get farther south down into some of the more specialty hospitals. So I'm just curious if in future events there will be opportunity to speak to the additional challenges that our rural communities are facing.
Well, Carolyn, thank you so much. Carolyn and the Disability Action Network and Chico, you guys are doing amazing work. And I think you raise a really important point about rural issues. And so we will definitely be committed to continuing to elevate these issues. And all of this sort of feedback about, how we might think about a future agenda for these kind of convenings, we also would love for you to collect that information and put it on the yellow sheets on your table. So please be sure to fill that out and give us any feedback that way as well. Thank you very much for that comment. So we're going to turn to this side of the room for a question.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Coleman with the California Commission on Aging, and I want to thank CDA for this amazing opportunity for us to gather together. It feels like old home week. It feels so good to see so many faces again. I was so moved, encouraged, struck by the similarities in the recommendations and that there's so much overlap. And that just is encouraging to me, because if we've got so much synergy, there's going to be a way to move it forward. And so I was really excited about that. And I am hopeful that if we're coming back in 2 years, we're going to have even more on the behavioral health. COVID has had such a devastating impact on so many people in our emotional well-being, and I just like to see us do some even more. I think we overcome a lot of our barriers of homelessness and job retention and just feeling better when we have a more positive mental health. So how we can get people those services to afford greater mental health is my question for us next time.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's such an important issue that I know the Commission on Aging is working hard to elevate behavioral health and understanding the issue and understanding what we can do together to solve it. So thank you. We're going to take a question, if there is one, from the center part of the room. If somebody has a question, you might want to stand up if you're able. There we go. I see somebody raising their hand. We have a microphone on their way.
Hi, my name's Kristen Raines. I'm a dementia care trainer. I'm a parent of a adult son with autism, and I'm also a member of the Coalition for Dementia Care Services for Adults with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Great. And I'm here representing all three of those aspects in that I am really sorry that I don't see more representation from the IDD community here. Where's Nancy Bargeman, the director of DDS, and where are more representatives? If we're really talking about inclusion, then we need to also include people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in all of our discussions, because like everyone else, they're also aging, and they are also at high risk for developing dementia. I know I'm taking a lot of time, so I'll just be very quick. But for example, adults with Down syndrome are the group at the highest risk of developing dementia due to genetic predisposition. So we really need to consider adults with Down syndrome when we're developing any policies about meeting people with services for dementia. And I'd really like to see expertise in helping diagnose people with IDD. That's an area that's really not being addressed in California right now. And when I talk to the Department of Developmental Services, they say, oh, well, you should go to the Department of Aging, because that's their area. And when I talk to the Department of Aging, they say, oh, no, you're served by DDS. And really, there is no open door for our folks who are aging. So I really want to encourage you and the other departments to break down those silos and work together and find services to meet all individuals.
Absolutely. Thank you. That is such an important issue, and one that we are so excited to be actively working on right now with our partners at DDS, Department of Developmental Services. Couldn't agree more. We have a lot of work to do to break down the silos, both at the state and local level, bring together aging and disability, and really learn from each other, right? And do a lot of cross-training. So thank you for that comment. Wonderful. So I think now we are moving to this end of the room, and then we'll come back over to here. I know I see Kathy Kelly has a comment too. So we'll start here, and then we'll go back over here.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Sullivan. I'm the Executive Director of Open House in San Francisco. This has been a fabulous day, and I just got to California a year ago, so in many ways, California is light years ahead of where I was most recently, which is Oregon. One area, though, that we're a little behind on is understanding the aging experience for LGBTQ older adults. There has not been a statewide study in California of the aging experience of that community, and I'm just curious to hear whether or not that would be something that the California Department of Aging would be interested in pursuing.
Well, thank you so much, Kathleen, for being here. Open House does amazing work in San Francisco, and I think that's a wonderful idea to bring forward to our stakeholder committees. You know, we have the Equity and Aging Advisory Committee, we have the California Aging and Disability Research Partnership. I think those are exactly the type of issues we want to be brought forth to those committees. So definitely will flag that as something to continue discussing in the future. So stay in touch on that one for sure. Thank you. Okay, so we had a, question over here.
Is this on? Yes, it is. First of all, just a kind of quick things. I'm Jane Jarlsberg. I'm a member of the California Senior Legislature, an assembly person. Southern California, high desert, low income, and very rural. And I'm glad somebody else brought that up because we were kind of missed. First of all, I tried to get into the website on my Kindle, and the password that's here did not work. So I don't know what the right one is. I'd like to know so I can download what I was missing today. The other thing is, I'm concerned about state funding that we hear about that is available at the state level and how it trickles down to the local areas where the need is. I'm not hearing the actual way to get access into those funds. And I'd like to hear more about, maybe from the fiscal department or something, what the process is for accessing funds for a variety of the programs that we're talking about. But I'm especially concerned about homelessness and housing issues, and the fact that Airbnbs have taken up so much affordable housing, especially in the areas like mine where tourism has built up so much. In the census in 2020, I actually helped with that. We lost about 13% of our population in our community, I believe, because Airbnbs bought up all the affordable housing, restored it, and a lot of it is now empty because that business isn't doing that well. But because the homes have been restored and upgraded, nobody of low income or medium income can afford to get back into those homes. So I think some of that issue needs to be brought up also and explored. Great. I don't hear it at the state level. I hear it a lot in the local level. And also, I had some issues getting here. And I thought, how did the people that had disabilities that are here today, how did they deal with getting here today? I think there should have been a map where parking was easier to get into this building. I thought I picked one that was pretty close, but then the front door was closed, and I had to walk 2/3 of the building to get in here, and then another third to get to this ballroom. And I can walk. I'm a little slow getting there, but I see people with all kinds of issues that I empathize with. And I think those things should have been perhaps publicized. There should have been a map where good parking might have been, or where the Uber should drop you off. That would be easier to get to ballroom B. Anyway, and the long walks are difficult for a lot of us. So I think that's
Thank you. Thank you so much for your feedback. We really appreciate hearing all of that. You raised a lot of important issues in your comments, and we'll take note about constantly being aware of how we are working to educate and work with stakeholders when there is state funding available so that locals can get it. housing affordability issues I heard you highlight. And then finally, in terms of this specific conference, we would definitely will continue in the future years to be very cognizant of how we inform participants about access and getting into the building and all that. So we appreciate that feedback. Thank you. So we're in the center part now for a question, and I see a couple of questions here. If the people with the mics.
Oh, I have a mic, Sarah.
Oh, you have the mic. Okay, whoever, I'm sorry again, my glasses.
you can-
So, okay, Nina, yeah.
Yes. Hi, sorry.
Where are you? There you are,
So,
okay.
Hi, everybody. Nina Weiler Harwell, ARP. First of all, Sarah, thank you for mentioning the 12 services, the 12 core services that were part of the LTSS subcommittee
Yeah,
report,
LTSS.
and looking forward to next steps on that. And then I also just want to raise up a couple of other recommendations. First of all, really appreciate the process happening at CDI around a future LTSS social insurance benefit, but definitely want to see forward movement on that and that coming to fruition in a fairly short period of time. We've been through one actuarial, I guess we're going through another one, but I think a lot of partners are ready to really start pushing play on that. Also want to raise up caregiver supports, and appreciated the presentation from the Alzheimer's disease. I think I'm probably getting the committee wrong, but from the Alzheimer's committee about respite and financial support, really ensuring that we have enough money so people are not waitlisted for respite, that they're also being properly assessed for caregiver supports with actual evidence-based assessments. And last but not least, regarding financial supports, hoping that the state will look at a caregiver tax credit again to provide important financial support to our 4.7 million family caregivers who spend so much money out of pocket to care for their loved ones.
Great.
So thanks.
Thank you so much, Nina. A lot of important issues. You highlighted LTSS affordability, the issue of respite and support, and some other suggestions related to caregiver support. So thank you. Next question. Who has the mic? Oh, there we go. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Sarah. It's Eli Gillardin.
Oh, Eli, where are you? I can't
way
see
in the
where you are.
back.
Okay, hi.
Way in the back.
Wait, Eli,
with-
say who you're with.
Yes. Eli Gillardin with Marin Center for Independent Living, Marin's one-door ADRC with Aging and Adult Services, and co-chair of the ADRC Advisory Committee with my colleague.
Victoria Jump from the
Yay.
Ventura County ADRC. So Eli is our spokesperson.
So much good conversation across all components, aging and disability, but one area that we would love to further spotlight, elevate in future conversations is the work of Aging and Disability Resource Connections. They really are partnerships, collaborations, and an expansion of the intersection of services for older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers.
Yes.
And to that end, we also really think, in alignment with the MPA, that ADRCs, with an expansion of dedicated funding, can do more local capacity building, training, local development, broaden our service delivery model to other aging and disability populations, including individuals with intellectual disabilities and other underserved disabilities. Also really expand our cultural competencies so that we can really meet the community needs, language access, and bring on more staff to serve our community.
Great.
Did I miss anything, Victoria? Okay. Oh,
Yay.
one last thing. The CDA staff who coordinate the ADRC work, led by Wilson, are fantastic. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Yay, Wilson. Hooray. Thank you so much, Eli and Victoria, first of all, for being so creative and organized. Aging and disability coming together to present, I love it, and highlighting such an important issue and service delivery model through the Aging and Disability Resource Connection Program. Lots of great work going on and lots more to do, so thank you for that. Next question.
Hi, My name is Tanya Moraviec. I'm here from the State Council on Developmental Disabilities, and thank you for all of your work. I wanted to bring up a couple of points, including the end user satisfaction. And when I think of end users, I think about people who have disabilities, their family members, and other stakeholders, and making sure that we are gathering information that supports their experiences, their desires, their preferences, looking at rate reform, outcomes-based services, especially evidence-based practices, and ensuring that we're using qualitative and quantitative data that might require MOUs for that data share. Different departments of government speak in different languages and gather different measurements that don't translate, making policy change extremely challenging. So that is something that I would really like to see happening in a meaningful way. I also wanted to talk about workforce recruitment. That was a theme that we heard through the various groups. Workforce recruitment and retention. There's a systematic devaluation of the caregiver role. DSPs and others working in the service industry are paid a very low wage, and they do not receive a lot of respect for their services, which are robust. And when we talked about recommendations regarding the complexity of that role and looking at upskilling and advancement, what we also need to talk about is including in that career ladder education on behavioral health and trauma-informed care. And as we talk about social determinants of health, this is my last point, quantifying savings from social determinants of health to get the buy-in of other government entities and other providers, and making sure that as we focus on those social determinants, we look at those that are particular levers of change that impact other social determinants. One of those is employment, and we talk about the 8 CBS settings rule and meaningful inclusion in communities. We can look at employment as a tool to allow for that, but also enhanced nutrition and living where people want to live and being able to participate in activities in the community. So my commitment here and my advocacy for this day of action and change is that the State Council on Developmental Disabilities is here to partner with each and every one of you and wants a seat at the table so that we can generate change and continue to ideate together. Thank you, all of you, for creating this opportunity and being here.
Great. Thank you so much for being here and for speaking to those really important issues in alignment with developmental disabilities and aging and data issues and workforce recruitment and retention, et cetera. We have a lot of work to do, and we appreciate your partnership. Next question.
Okay, thank you. Linda Jackson. I am from the Marin Aging Action Initiative. We're a collaborative network of people from the nonprofits, healthcare, higher ed, and public sectors. And we all advocate in Marin for the well-being of older adults. So I have 4 things real quick. The first one is the word ecosystem was used, and that really captured my mind, and along with the word of interdependent. And in our survey that our AAA did a few years ago, we found that in Marin, the top concern by far of older adults is climate change. And that doesn't make a surprise, because as older adults, we have actually witnessed the decline and demise of our planet. And I really want to hold up that use of the concept of we live in an interdependent ecosystem, and how we are all holding our planet closely through this. The second one is there was a comment about the caregiving in non-white cultures. And it struck me that in the dominant white culture, we're so independent and so mobile, and we have the resources for this. We have a lot to learn about caregiving of our our parents and our aunts and our uncles from Latino communities, immigrant communities, the Asian American community, and the African American community. And so I'd like to hear more about that. And what we can learn and build on in addition to what the dominant culture is doing. The third is BHRS. In Marin, the focus is on Medi-Cal, but we have a huge population of the missing middle. that needs these services as well. And so we need to find out how we can make that happen at the state so that our local staff will take that on and provide those services for people. And the final is California is one of the, I think the 7th or the 6th or the 5th largest economy in the world. We can be learning from what people are doing in Europe on both issues for disability inclusion and for issues for older residents. So I look forward to, we don't have to reinvent a wheel. There are things happening there. Yes, they're socialists, but they do have a whole more inclusive culture. And I'd love to learn more about what is applicable, what can we transfer here as we look forward to 2030. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your work in Marin and for elevating the really critical issue and very intersectional issue of climate change, as well as the other comments and lots of lessons and best practices to learn about caregiving, including looking at other communities and other countries. Okay, we unfortunately have time for 2 more points, 2 more comments, if you're able to do them in about a minute. So I want to turn to the person who has the mic next.
I think we have one here and then one over there.
Okay, so that's great. Thanks, Renita. The last 2.
I'll make it quick. My name is Janie Whiteford, and I'm the current president of CICA, California In-Home Support Services Consumer Alliance. And we are really, really concerned about the issue coming forth with lack of providers for consumers, both in IHSS and for those people with disabilities or seniors who need help that don't have family members. And this is throughout the state. It has become a real, real problem to find both qualified folks that want to be providers for those of us that need those services. And I really think that the state needs to get involved, and we all need to get involved in this area. I think it's a matter of outreach, letting folks know that this is a viable occupation, that there is an opportunity coming forward for training if they want training out in the community. Career Pathways is coming forward for IHSS, and I just heard that it's a possibility of opening that up to other providers.
Yep.
Anyway, that this is something that all of us need to work on, or we are going to find a lot of people falling through the cracks, getting services that they desperately need.
Thank you so much, Janie, for raising that really critical issue. And thank you also for recognizing the great work happening at Department of Social Services with the Career Pathways program and so many opportunities. We have a lot of work to do, as you said. Thank you. Okay, last comment.
Okay, yes, there we go. Hi, I'm Bridget. I'm from the Los Angeles Aging and Disability Resource Connection. And I just want to echo that we really do need to focus on the IHSS. We have a big shortage. We also have a transportation issue. You know, there's a lot of places that are doing like local accessible transportation, but the wait lists are really high, or there's just a backlog. And finally, with the housing protections ending soon in Los Angeles, we're gonna see a lot of seniors and people with disabilities getting evicted in January. So I really hope that we all come together and we address these issues that are gonna be happening soon.
Great,
So
thank you.
yeah, that's my comments.
Thank you so much for elevating those issues. And thank you to all of you who spoke, and thank you to all of you who filled out forms. Sorry we couldn't get to all of you. This, for me, has been a highlight, hearing from all of you. So appreciate your being here, and I'm going to turn it back over to Susan.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone who raised your hand and held a mic and shared. We were keeping a record of the entire event, and you will see mirrored back to you in the next round of Master Plan for Aging initiatives many of the exact words that you all just used. So thank you for your comments. Now I'm happy to share, our highly skilled AV team is happy to share a video from one of the greatest champions for aging, disability, and Alzheimer's in our state, our former First Lady, Maria Shriver, who was tapped by Governor Newsom, I think before he even took office, and in his very first State of the State address, he announced that Maria Shriver would be heading the Alzheimer's Prevention and Preparedness Task Force. She could not be with us today, but she did prepare a video and wanted to send a closing message to all of us.
Hi, I'm your closer, It's the end of the day. I'm Maria Shriver, and I'm so glad to be your closer, actually. I hope you've all had an incredible day. I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to be with you, but I'm with you in spirit. I'm with you with our shared mission. I'm passionately focused on what you're focused on: Alzheimer's, aging, caregiving, being out in front on these issues, which I'm so proud California is. I was just told that about 22 other states are emulating what we have done in California, or I should say trying to emulate what we have done, what the governor has set forth as his agenda to make California a great place to grow old in, a healthy place to grow old in, an affordable place to grow old in, where services are accessible to all, regardless of gender, regardless of economic status. That really is something that we can all work towards. A future where every service that California has to offer is accessible and available to all. That is really my dream, that California is seen as the leader in how to grow old gracefully, how to grow old with support, with care, with kindness, and with services. I was so honored to be chosen by Governor Newsom to lead the Alzheimer's Task Force. As many of you know, Alzheimer's has been my passion ever since my own father, Sergeant Shriver, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's back in 2003. And for the really last 20 years, I've been out on the front lines trying to learn about caregiving, trying to learn about why Alzheimer's disproportionately impacts women, and particularly women of color, and what we could do, not only as a state, but really as a nation, to ease the burden on families, to try to understand how we could all live healthier, how we might be able to prevent Alzheimer's, and one day wipe it out. That really is my ultimate goal, to wipe out Alzheimer's, and to work with scientists and researchers about finding a cure that will work not just for women, but for everyone. That really has been my passion, and I'm excited that there's more hope in this space than ever before. Governor Newsom has really been out in front in funding research on this disease, particularly funding it for women and people of color, but really saying to everybody in his administration, I want to lead here. I want us to be known for how we care for those of us who are aging and how we deal with Alzheimer's. As you all know, Alzheimer's is a global issue. It's a national issue. And people look to California to lead on issues like this, which we are doing. So I hope you have had an incredible day. I hope you've been inspired by the work that is being done by so many dedicated public servants here in California. And I want you to know that those of you who have gathered here today, I see you. I know how hard you are working. I know how tough the pandemic has been. And I know it's a great moment to actually come together in person, to meet one another, to hear what one another is doing, to hear the hope and the inspiration firsthand. I always get energized when I'm in community with people who share this kind of a mission, who believe that our best days are actually in front of us. I believe that about myself. I believe that about this state. And I believe it really about this nation. So thank you for asking me to close this day. I want to stay in mission with all of you. I want to stay committed to this issue with all of you. And I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in person in the near future. Thank you again.
Thank you to Maria Shriver. And with our senior advisor on aging, disability, and Alzheimer's still here, thank you again to the governor for launching the Alzheimer's Prevention and Preparedness Task Force. So, like Maria, I also get energized being in community, and I hope you did today as well. It's 4 o'clock. It's close to 4. It was a packed day. We will release you momentarily, but not before we first thank again our 7 philanthropic partners who were here before the master plan, through the master plan process, and now are helping us as we move into year 3 and 4 of the master plan. So to our foundation partners, to our 7 stakeholder committees, thank you for presenting today, for your participation year-round on your committees and work groups. We greatly appreciate you. I especially want to thank the California Department of Aging staff, all of you who are still here, who've been working so hard on this event, and will keep working hard on this event for weeks to come as we process the record and we follow up with requests and we start preparing the next round of initiatives for years 3 and 4 of the master plan. So thank you very much to the CDA staff. I also want to thank Nancy and Maria with the Kalina Institute, who are the backbone for this event, the logistics, the support, the AV, the meals, the beautiful graphics, everything. Thank you to Kalina Institute. And a very special thank you to a retired annuitant who joined us, Sandy Fitzpatrick, who formerly led the Commission on Aging. We brought her back out of retirement to help with this project, and she's been an absolute godsend to us. So thank you very much, Sandy. So in closing, it is very, I had a good thing I was going to say. I was going to say that as we celebrate our success, and we did that today, and we will continue to do that, there are bills still to be signed by the governor. We're still processing the final state budget. There are public-private initiatives that we will be celebrating for the remainder of this year. All of that will be captured in our annual report to the legislature in January. But as much as we're celebrating, we're also humbled by what is still to be done. We heard from many of you this afternoon about other ideas. We heard all of your suggestions. So with that excitement and humility, we will move forward into the next phase of the Master Plan for Aging work together as a community, in person where we can, virtually when we have to, but we'll continue to move forward as a community together and continue this great work that was started by many of you in this room and will be continued by people who aren't in this room and people who are listening to us remotely. So thank you all for joining us today. Safe travels home, and we'll see you again.